All right, I'll say, how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist?
Great.
Are you all alive? Oh, thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Allow us to entitle this interaction, Use All Your Creations. Understand, you create your own reality. Nice phrase. A bit popular now in your new age. But what does this really mean? Many individuals interpret it to mean, I have some degree of say over my reality. In general, this is far more accurate of what most people believe you create your own reality truly means. But from our perspective, it means more than that. It means you create it all. You are not even within a reality. The reality is within your consciousness, and therefore every creation in your life is a product of your own creatorhood. However, you very creatively within your society divide your consciousness up into parts or segments. One, or perhaps sometimes many of these segments are sometimes referred to as sub or unconscious. Therefore, when you create your own reality, you do so consciously some degree of the time, but also because you have the convention of this idea, also do so unconsciously, particularly when you are not aware that you even create it. Therefore, fairly enough, many times individuals will say, well, if I create my own reality, why would I create that? Referring to some particular thing within their reality that they do not prefer. And then use that as a proof that, of course, I must not create my own reality. I would not be such a careless creator if I did. But understand again, because you have these subdivisions in the overall 100% consciousness that you are, some of these creations can be the product of what you have bought into on perhaps trust of other individuals, on perhaps trust of societal notions, and therefore not altogether consciously. How this can be used in a practical way is that you can truly make all your creations conscious and thereby transform the ones that you say you do not prefer. However, you cannot do so by denying any of your creations. Interestingly enough, many individuals are all the more willing, with pride, zest, and zeal, to admit that the things that they prefer in their lives are their creations. But the ones they don't, not so easy. The ones they don't, perhaps they feel slipped in there when they weren't looking. Allow us to address those creations. The creations that were, in that sense, products of unconscious beliefs, but no less your creations. Though those unconscious beliefs most often will yield realities perhaps you do not prefer. But there is a way to transform this. And first of all, allow us to say that you can never get rid of anything that you create, for you are the entire universe and there is no outside. Therefore, there is nowhere to put anything. Therefore, you can transform something, you can integrate it, you can change its face, but attempting to push it away or get rid of it is only denying your creation. And denial of your creation does not put you squarely back into the position to transform it. You can only transform any creation or any belief if you first acknowledge and own that you do believe it. And that is the difference between denial and transformation of your reality. Therefore, allow us to now address the creations within your life that you say you do not prefer. All symbols, all events within your reality, again, are part and parcel of you. You cannot truly separate yourself from them because, again, you are not within a reality. The reality is within you. So therefore, you can truly look at any of the symbols within your reality as a neutral set of props that gives you the opportunity when interacting with that portion of your consciousness to determine how you wish to label it. What significance you assign to it is up to you. And here's the clincher, as you say, the significance or meaning that you assign to any neutral symbol determines the effect that you get out. So therefore, any non-preferential creations that very often may seem even to repeat and be repetitive have been ascribed a particular label by you that has resulted in the negative, unpreferential experience. Now, what this affords you is the ability to understand, again, because they are, in a sense, a neutral set of props. You can choose to label it any way you wish. And being neutral, what this means is there will always be 100% potential for a negative outcome or a positive outcome from the same circumstance. So therefore, you can begin to use all your creations in a positive way. You can begin to utilize the creations you say you do not prefer by looking at them, by reassigning, by reinterpreting your relationship to that symbol, to that aspect of your consciousness. For again, it is all one thing. Therefore, when you find yourself experiencing a negative reality, understand that you have labeled it negative. Perhaps it is a overwhelming symbol. That is how your society labels it, that in general immediately gets slapped with a negative label. But remembering that it is all neutral, you can turn it around because it also has 100% potential for positive. It also always can have a positive interpretation as well. And your mere willingness to even look, to even think that it is possible to look at what is positive about something that you formerly have only labeled negative will open many doors within your consciousness and begin to rejoin the many divisions and segments that you chop your consciousness up to represent. So therefore, one of the suggestions that we have made in our interactions with your society, and to put it quite colloquial, is when something is occurring to you, or shall we say within your reality, and you are labeling that it is happening to you. Why is this happening to poor me? This is no fair. What did I do to deserve this? That is a label. That is an attitude. That is a perspective. And when you make that assignment, that is the effect you get out. However, there is another way to approach it. And this way enables you to utilize even that creation you say you do not prefer. And the simple statement that will represent the beginnings of allowing yourself to see this is, rather than why me, why poor little old me, ascribing the statement, all right, I understand the negative aspects about this, but I also understand that all symbols contain both. Therefore, how does this creation, how does this symbol serve me exactly the way it is? That simple perspective will at least allow you to begin to use even that creation. And you will find that when you nail down the positive reason for any creation, it will transform. Symbols and events and objects and situations are merely messages from yourself to yourself. When you ascribe it in a negative way, you remove it from yourself and therefore perhaps are not getting the positive message from the symbol. So very often the result is that the symbol will seem to repeat. It will come back perhaps in slightly different guises, slightly different forms from its perspective to allow you the opportunity to get a particular message which will aid very greatly in your growth and expansion of consciousness. So therefore, understanding this, you can begin to be a bit more conscious about it and begin to look at how it serves you. For when you get the message that you created the symbol to represent, there no longer is the need for it to keep coming back. There is simply nothing extraneous in creation. If something exists, it exists. And then by definition, it is not extraneous. It is not that everything fits in my life except this. This is extraneous. When you assign that definition, you get the effect of something being extraneous, but that is a result of the assignment of your particular label or belief. So therefore, when asking yourself, how does this serve me? And going one step further to ask, how does it serve me exactly as it already is? If you will be honest, you will always find something. And when you nail down the overwhelming reason for the creation of that symbol, it simply transforms, changes face. So therefore, if there is something in your life that you feel is repetitive to you, that you do not prefer, first of all, we can assume you have been assigning it either the same or a similar negative label. So first of all, do not continue, if you wish, to do that. But when you are willing to act as an owner, so to speak, of your own reality, you would only assume that everything that you have created, if you truly believed you created your own reality, can be of service in a positive way. So therefore, by only being willing to look at what the positive perspective is, you allow it to transform and take a belief which was formerly unconscious, and by bringing it to the front, bringing it right in front of your face, literally, you allow it to transform. You allow it to become conscious. And because we are discussing this and the notion arises that you can continue to create your reality, at least from this moment forward, consciously, you will not continue to create unpreferential symbols. You will continue to now generate a positive momentum. However, those thoughts, those beliefs which resulted in unconscious beliefs will come up. They will allow you the opportunity to integrate them. So at first, when embarking upon a path such as this, sometimes it may seem that things are more negative at first, but the reason for this is it allows you the opportunity to take each of these ideas and make them conscious and decide whether you wish to transform it, and then if you do, transform it. So therefore, as you transform one thing at a time, rather than saying, this stinks, putting it back in the closet so it can come back nastier and uglier, you begin to clean out the very closet you have created. So it is not that you will need to go on for the rest of your life relabeling things you do not prefer and in a sense seeming to fool yourself into enjoying your reality. No. As you do allow these symbols to come up, transform and integrate them within you, and no longer continue to unconsciously create new beliefs, you knock them off, so to speak, or transform them in or integrate them one by one. And eventually, you get to the end. When you get to the end and have been for that period only generating your reality consciously, you then can experience only positive effects. Now understand, you are in a reality that displays polarity, positivity, negativity. So as you expand your consciousness in this way, you may become more aware, as you will, of the positive of many negative things. But there is a difference, a vast difference between awareness of negativity and experience of negativity. And the idea is that you can be and will be, as you expand, by definition, you will be more aware of both. But again, it will always be your choice to take that awareness and buy into it in a way that you then would produce a effect in your life. So therefore, you can, even though you may be aware of some negativity around you at first, only experience yourself the positive. This is possible. Now understand, as we share this, if you say, yeah, sure, perhaps you are a bit far from believing this, and your belief in it or belief that it is not possible will determine how quickly you will be able to live that way. But you can use even that creation. If you said, that's ridiculous, everybody knows you have to experience some negative to balance out the positive, you can use even that. For now that you are aware that you believe that, you can choose to believe something else. Were you to deny it, you could not. For the only thing that allows you to change a belief that you have that you do not prefer is first, again, acknowledging or admitting that you have such a belief. Realizing because you have that belief, you feel a certain way. Beliefs generate emotions. Emotions do not exist within a vacuum. They are results or a response to a belief. You can then see, now knowing how that belief allows you to feel, how it allows you to think, how you then act. You act as though you are a person with that original unpreferred belief. This segues into how you can change that belief. For once you have acknowledged it, once you own the belief, again, have acknowledged to yourself how that belief allows you to feel, think, and act, you can utilize your most powerful tool to now drum up a mold or a template for the new preferred belief. And this goes as follows. Once you understand your old belief, you then phrase to yourself the new preferred belief. State it aloud if you wish. Using your imagination as a tool rather than an escape. Rather than projecting worst case scenarios as a tool that is tuned to the vibration of who you are. You can imagine what a person, if you wish to place it outside of yourself to make it easier, would feel if they had the new belief. And using your imagination, conjure up that feeling. Allow yourself to truly feel how you would feel if you had that belief. Extending this further, you can also use that imagination to see how a person would act that has the new belief. What would they do? In a particular given situation, with that belief, how would they act? And the simple last step, which is perhaps the simplest of all when you are willing to at least sample this idea, is to then act that way. Allow your imagination to lay down the template of how a person with a preferred belief would act and simply act that way. That is what you do anyway with the old belief, though unconsciously. We are now beginning to speak about making it conscious, allowing it to be conscious, making the new determination and consciously choosing to manifest the new idea. You will immediately notice that the actions of the preferred belief will differ from the actions you have been taking. So it'll be quite obvious in that regard that you will obviously get a different effect. But what your imagination is doing is showing you that you contain within you that preferred belief already. And that is why you can even project how a person would act who had it. And that means because you already contain it, you already are it in the moment you are conjuring it up, that it will be most effortless to simply act that way. When you stop yourself from the automatic behavior you sometimes label that you have, and give yourself an alternative, the alternative being that it is a reflection of the new preferred you, will most obviously seem more attractive. Therefore, it will be most effortless to do the new thing rather than the old. And if you will simply give yourself the advantage or the opportunity to see what that would be, there will not be much difficulty in choosing the action that is truly reflective of the you prefer to be. Does that make sense? Therefore, your imagination within your society very often, again, is referred to as an escape, a fantasy generating element, a projection of worst case scenarios. But even utilizing the projection of worst case scenarios, you can understand how powerful a tool it is. For when you do that, when you imagine something that you feel will happen that will be quite bad, which incidentally, interestingly enough, never really seems to happen, but you actually can feel your emotion building up as though you were in that situation. You get angry, you get indignant, you get mad, you get fearful. That is how strong your imagination is. That is the negative usage of the tool that we are now suggesting can be used in a positive way. It is just as simple to drum up the positive emotion and then feel good about how you would act were you acting according to preference. So utilizing again the negative example simply shows you that you are most expert already at using this tool. Simply, individuals very often will never even be aware of the fact that it is a tool. And it is a very finely honed, tuned tool. It is tuned to your vibration. Your imagination is individually tuned to you and will serve you in this way, utilizing it in this way most fully. And in fact, you can extend it to even say that anything, any process that you are undergoing in your life, your imagination will provide any particular nuances that will cater it to you. So therefore, if you are meditating or doing, shall we say, something that excites you and your imagination comes up with a particular idea, trust it. Understand that it is a tool and that that is specific for you and that if you trust it, you will get a positive result if you wish. Therefore, you can always use all your creations, no matter what. The very worst that you feel is within your reality can be utilized in a positive way. And most often, the things that you label as the worst, when transformed, yield the best results. Your liabilities become your greatest asset. And you no longer feel the need to trip yourself up and simply allow yourself in a positive, synergistic, growing, enhancing way to begin to take back your power, to create your reality in a conscious way according to preference, with integrity. For again, the reality is within you. Nothing is separate from you. And your willingness to view all things, all events, all individuals as part of you in some way, significant to you, part of the creation of your reality, is the understanding of your integration with all things. When we speak of acting with integrity, this is what we mean. Acting as though you are integrated with all things. Allow us again, before we begin with the exchange and the interaction, to briefly note that one of the ways that your higher self, so to speak, allows your physical self to be aware of what will benefit you most in a given situation translates as a particular emotional vibration that you call excitement. Anything that moves you, anything that gives you joy, anything that brings your passion to the surface and excites you in that way is a reflection from your higher self that this is me. If you are willing to begin to get in touch with what excites you with integrity, again, an extension of your understanding of integration, you will begin to steer your life where you wish it to be. For the things that excite you do not do so to tease you. They do not do so to go, as you sometimes say, nah, nah, or dangle the carrot in front of you. They are the vibratory representation of what you chose to be in this life. Very often individuals will say, give me a sign. I wish I had a sign. Excitement is that sign. That is your specific gauge. That is your indication. This is me. That is why it excites you and not perhaps someone else. For it is your gauge. And again, when acting upon any opportunities within that excitement, utilizing the knowledge of integration within your integrity, you will always find a positive result. You will always find that thing to be most effortless. You will always find, though perhaps not always in a way that you expect, another opportunity arising from your willingness to act on what is a representation of who you are. And you can begin a chain of events whereby one exciting thing gives an opportunity to do the next exciting thing. And as you are doing these things, because you are acting within your integrity, you are being of service to yourself in a positive way. Again, understanding that everybody else is an extension of you, you are being of service to others if you are following your excitement with integrity in a positive way. And there then begins to be a positive momentum within your life. And it becomes quite obvious. We refer to the full institution of what we are speaking of as the ecstatic explosion of coincidence and synchronicity. For what occurs is the things you say you desire begin to manifest in your life very often in the most unlikely of ways. And you say, oh, what a coincidence. Well, yes, everything's a coincidence. Coincidence. Incidences happening at the same time, but not an accident. For everything, because it is all an extension of one thing, is interrelated. And though one thing may not seem to have anything to do with another, by definition, they do. And by definition, anything that excites you, because it is a representation of who you are, is somehow connected to everything else that excites you. Everything. Even if it does not on the surface appear that way, they are literally stepping stones one to the other. And you cannot get to one without stepping on each stone. So therefore, beginning to validate your excitement and act upon it with integrity and beginning to utilize in a positive way all of your creations will, in a very accelerated fashion, fasten your seatbelts, propel your life into a life of positive, preferential, ecstatic joy. And at the same time, nice touch, you will be of service to yourself and others and make a positive impact upon your society. Therefore, allow us to thank you for your willingness to begin to open the doors that you have in the partitions with which you separate your consciousness into parts. You are always a 100% consciousness. Even if you use 90% of that consciousness to make it seem as though you are only using 10%, you are still using it all. And therefore you can act as one whole homogeneous being by simply understanding again that nothing is extraneous. And timing is synchronicity as well. The timing of things has a particular significance. When these seemingly negative things come up is significant. That timing allows you to know that if you are willing in that moment to look at it as in a positive way, that is the perfect timing to integrate it. So therefore, allow your timing to be obvious. When something comes up, you can then deal with it. When you ask, how does this serve me exactly as it is, you need not dig into every little wormhole there. Simply start out allowing it to be as obvious as possible. And when you find how it serves you, realize there are other things that you can do, other ways, other methods, other means to get the same result, and begin to consciously act on these other methods, and you will no longer need that symbol to punch you in the head. Therefore, again, we thank you for your willingness to begin to homogenize your consciousness and begin to fully realize who you are. This is how our society functions and exists, and we communicate this to you to allow you the opportunity, if you wish, there is no insistence on our part, to begin as a society to come into your full being. And that would then allow us the opportunity to interact with you, shall we say, in a slightly more conventional manner, face to face. But we have no desire in that sense to have your power that you are now beginning to take back to be given away, particularly to us. We do not need or want your power. We have enough of our own. Thank you very much. but we are willing to share as equals with you when you are willing to view yourself as equal to us. And beginning to determine your reality in a positive way will afford you and allow you that same equality in your own consciousness. Because again, from our perspective, you are already equal to all other creations, all other forms and expressions throughout the multiverse. There is simply no difference in quality, only perhaps quantity of focus or expansion. We are more expanded, but we are not better in any way, shape, or form. Simply different. Therefore, I ask you now, how may I be of service to you? Shedding. Ace, male.
Elan, I wrote down about, I wanted to know about excitement tonight. It's just funny that you came up with that.
Oh, what a coincidence. Again, do understand that when we share what you sometimes call the introductory statements within these interactions, that from our end, so to speak, we take a reading, again, this is quite colloquial, of the collective energy, and the statements that are then rendered are relevant in some way very directly to all. So thank you for participating.
Welcome. The question I wrote down was if is excitement a decision? You have to make a decision to be excited.
Well, the idea is the excitement. The feeling is quite automatic. It is up to you to decide whether you will act upon it or, as you sometimes say, squelch it.
I got it. There's something that's been bothering me. You see, when you said that we've already have something that we made up, negative. Something negative happened in our past, and we act on it, and something like people take advantage of me.
All right. In your past, you are saying?
Yes. In my past, I made up that I was a victim.
All right.
That who I am being is a person that others take advantage of me. And that was at an early age.
All right.
And then I lived my life. That's who I was. Now, I got in touch with that, and now I'm transforming it.
Yes.
But it's very difficult to see what advantage that had for me.
Well, in a sense, the mere transformation of it allowed you to experience it and then, in a sense, integrate it in a positive way. Thereby, the integration of it winds up being a strength and allows you to deal with other individuals who may be undergoing a similar experience, and that will carry more weight with them, for when they see you have done it too, they tend to listen a little bit more, shall we say, eagerly. But understand again that the present need not experientially be a result of the past. It is only, again, labels, assignments of meaning. The past is done. It was completed when it was done. It becomes a choice, sometimes unconsciously, for individuals to continually recreate the past in the present. But in that sense, you can also use that, decide what it is you wished you would have done in your imagination, play that out, establish the balance, and move on. Proceed.
That answers my question.
All right.
I was wondering why that I was doing that.
To be a living example many times for others who, again, will then assign more of a readiness to hear what you have to say because you have been through it too.
Yeah. Very much so. Thank you.
And to you.
Elan.
Ace.
Greetings, friend.
And to you.
To continue just a bit on Vinny's discussion, the subject of sexual abuse. This, in my experience, when it exists in a person's history, appears to be a major source of trauma and perhaps apparently an inability to transform.
Well, again, in general, in those scenarios, individuals having then created what you would call victimhood from unconscious beliefs were not able to express themselves at that time. And it is not always so much the actual occurrence as the individual being cut off from being able to express at that point who they were. So our suggestion in those particular scenarios is to, again, pull out the tool of your imagination, relive or recreate, which is all you are doing when you say you have a memory anyway. You are recreating it. You are not reliving it. It is done. You are recreating it. But simply recreate the scenario and do what it is you wished you had done. And feel what it feels like to have done what you wished you have done. Then at least you give yourself a choice to choose which meaning you will assign in the present. Is that clear?
Yes.
Proceed.
Thank you. A statement. Until recently, I had only negative associations with the CIA, which I mentioned as a big negative symbol in previous session.
And what have you since found?
Well, less than 3 days after I mentioned the CIA in negative terms, I read a New York Times article in which officials of the CIA expressed a great deal of interest in transforming their whole agency.
Well, you had an impact now, didn't you?
Well, I'm not sure it was me.
Oh, you're not?
Whatever.
All right. Perhaps you are the one extraneous thing in creation.
Let me think about that.
Oh, all right.
So at any rate, I'd like to congratulate the CIA for thinking about transforming itself and would like to suggest that they perhaps rename themselves the Central Information Agency and become a source, the most reliable public source of information about peoples and governments in other parts of the world.
Well, thank you for laying down such a creative idea. And we also suggest that you keep your eyes out for many of the other organizations you haven't ascribed a negative label to and allow them to transform as well. This is the time for it. It is the transformational period upon your planet. During this particular time in your history, you will make literally as a society what you sometimes call a quantum jump, and you are about to take the leap. Therefore, you are now beginning to see signs of your willingness to change within your consciousness being reflected in your external reality.
Right. And then perhaps one further question along this line.
All right.
Now, suppose today I was a counselor and I had in my counseling chamber a great master of suppression, such as Hitler was, or Stalin.
All right.
And the master of suppression was interested in whatever it was that made him tick. How could I assist him to transform himself?
In this particular instance where individuals feel that they must oppress and suppress and impinge, in a sense, upon others, you can begin with the basics. Merely present the idea of creating their own reality, and you will find most often, if not always in those situations, that these individuals do not feel that they create their own reality. When you feel that you create it, you can allow creations to transpire. When you do not feel that you create it, very often, individuals will create what we sometimes label a perceived helplessness. And that helplessness will generally result in a lashing out, in an individual attempting to force and squeeze and conform other individuals so that he can feel on some level perhaps he does control his own reality, but you never in that sense create your own reality by forcing something to happen. Reality creation is automatic and is a matter of allowance. And in effect, if you are engaging in the particular style of activity where you are forcing and oppressing and suppressing, you are not in the posture of allowance. So therefore, your reality gives you the feedback that you are helpless. You are helpless. You must lash out. You must lash out. You must control your reality rather than, again, allow your reality to change according to preference. For change is truly the only constant. That would be perhaps a place to start. In more colloquial language, after you have felt out, as you say, where they are at.
Thank you. And also, isn't it true that the expressions of extreme negativity, such as those we've experienced through Hitler, um,
Are the product of fear, are the product of insecurity, are the product of feeling inferior and therefore needing to prove that you are superior, but ironically that proving is being done to yourself. It is themselves they are trying to prove it to, figuring if enough other individuals are convinced, perhaps they will believe it themselves. But when you do not believe in the power of your own ideas and argue them, what you are doing in that sense is convincing yourself.
right, right. Wouldn't it be true that to be on that path, that particular exploration of suppression, is today at least a redundancy? It's been done time and time again on this planet, and there's no further point.
In a sense, yes. And this is one of the reasons you are at the pinnacle of the transformational age, whereby as a society, rather than just as individuals, you will transcend the limitation and lack that you have created, participated within, played out. You have done it all. You have, in that sense, had in this particular cycle 25,000 years of lifetimes of exploring limitation, negativity, and separation. You have done it all. Therefore, in a sense, you can say it would be redundant, though there may be some individuals, shall we say, getting a little in there while they still can.
Well, thank you so much.
And to you. Shedding. Ace.
Hi.
Greetings.
Well, it's been a very powerful 2 months,
Oh, thank you.
and I feel as though you're with me constantly at this point.
All right. But you are feeling your own light as well. We are only assistive and tangential in that way. And it is our pleasure to participate. Do proceed.
So, transformation is not the word for my reality at this point, where all the information I've been taking in over a 10-year period, it's finally processing and I'm integrating. And,
Well, happy birthday.
thanks. So, but I feel that your presence, has sort of allowed me in my life to actuate this process. Is that accurate? I mean,
Well, in a sense, you can understand that we beam, and this is very colloquial. It is not precise. An assistive stream to your planet, now that your planet is such that would accept such an idea. Therefore, you match that stream. So in a sense, you can say we facilitate, yes, but it will always be you that does the changing and you that takes the action. All the things that we share, when we are sharing them, are only nice information, but when you put them into action, then you are utilizing them to create your own reality. So in a sense, you can say that you allowed us to participate, but again, bring it back home. It is you doing so. And again, we will continue in that sense to provide that function, but always remind you and clarify that you are actually doing it. For you do not need anything outside of you. Everything outside of you is an extension of you anyway. So therefore, thanks for playing. We've had some fun. Do also understand that we never insist in any way, shape, or form that anybody believe what we are saying it, because it is us who are saying it. We cannot empirically prove it to you at this time anyway. Only you can prove it to yourself. Nor are we suggesting that what we are saying is better than what any of you are doing. Simply, we are providing an alternative that if it does ring true with you, feel free to utilize it. And you have done so and are continuing to do so. We thank you.
Elan. Oh,
Ace, is that all?
quite true. No, I'm just moving on to the next question. I have a couple of questions, if that's all right.
All right.
Specifically, I was looking at a skylight in my bedroom about a month ago, and I saw a light go across the sky and stop. and it was moving rather fast, and it was sort of a large light, and I had the sense that it was a ship, and it stopped and then refused to move further, and I never really knew anything more. Can you elaborate on that?
In a sense, you had what you would call a valid sighting. We will not, in that sense, be specific as to the who and where, for it will be up to you to get in touch with it. But in a sense, you had witnessed a craft, yes.
It was a craft.
Yes.
Were they friends of yours?
Well, in a sense, you can say we're all friends. The idea is there is a cooperative association of many worlds who are sharing as equals.
Okay, so I'll move on to my final question. I've been photographing the mentally ill, largely thanks to you, and it's brought me to an overview about our reality as a planet, and I'm fascinated by this, and also at times very concerned, because although it is my choice to perceive humanity as in a crisis state because of what we do to our children, I realize that is my choice to perceive it that way. But when I view the mentally ill, I realize that perhaps they have a freedom that those of us don't. So I'm sort of caught between, joy and despair. And I just wanted your feedback on this process because, in a sense, it's the only way in which I feel restricted in my life right now.
Well, again, we remind you that not only do you create your own reality, but so does all other individuals. There are many reasons for individuals to create many realities, as many reasons as there are individuals. So therefore, there are many, many reasons that individuals will choose to, shall we say, participate in that style of consciousness. But again, one of the things you touched upon would be quite accurate from our perspective. Because their focus is so much different than yours, this does not mean they have no focus. And in that sense, where their focus lies, and this will vary from individual to individual, that is their particular expression of, as you say, their freedom. So they are simply exploring different aspects of reality, no less real than yours, but not, shall we say, the mass agreed upon reality, while at the same time existing in the same society. Sometimes some of these expressions will be the result of individuals imposing upon themselves karma in a retribution style, which need not occur, but that is how some individuals will choose to do it. But once the expression is created, it is a valid exploration in and of itself, and many souls will simply choose to explore that degree of highly focused reality, whereby the focus is so pinpoint that it seems to exclude 99.9% of the rest of the agreed upon mass reality. Is there something specific you are seeking to explore?
Well, man was telling me about his history of hallucinations. He would see a man on a cloud in a cape, and they locked him up for his...
Well, do understand, he was not, in the classic sense, from his perspective, hallucinating. From his perspective, his focus was such that he was simply perceiving a reality which, again, is not mass agreed upon in your society, at least at this point in many instances, because they do not perceive such an idea, cannot accept that there are other realities and simply think the individuals to be insane. But the reality he was perceiving from our perspective was no less real than yours.
Exactly, that's what I feel.
So one of the other things that he is then exploring is the relationship and the interaction of one reality with another and the quote-unquote societal consequences, at least at this time.
So I wonder if some of these people are closer to force density than the rest of us.
Not necessarily. It can be, again, expressions of different dimensions within your third dimensional reality.
Would, as a rule, would these people be more dense or less dense than us?
Again, simply different. It can be some more, some less, some exactly the same, though with an altered focus. There is no rule of thumb in that way. But Perhaps we can address, if you can be more specific, what upsets you or what you create because of your interpretations, upsettedness around.
Well, what what really what I react to in an adverse way is the scale on which children are abused and have been for however many generations.
All right, then how can you take this feeling and act in a positive way to facilitate your reality, in a sense, healing this idea within your immediate experience? In other words, you can ask yourself how you can apply this, and that will make the difference and the change within your experience of it.
Well, one little girl that I feel I'm witnessing, that I'm a witness to her abuse, that has been sort of troubling me for the past few days. I chose this morning to merely realize that was her choice and her experience and to release it.
All right, but this does not mean that if you have the opportunity, in a sense, to assist in a way that is within your integrity, that you do not do so. It simply means that you do not be responsible for her, but only to her.
So what does that mean?
So that means, what do you feel you should do?
Well, I want to approach her mother and
All right.
tell her that what I see as her, the ignorance of her to her own behavior pattern with her daughter, and tell her that it is not her daughter that is acting out, but herself, and that she's projecting it onto her daughter, and that it is damaging and abusive. But I also feel like I have no right to do this.
All right, now, why do you have no right, lovingly, with a positive intention, to express who you are? This hesitation is perhaps the issue.
Aren't I crossing a boundary for her?
Are you?
I would think so.
Why?
Well,
Do you have her best interests in mind?
yes, but I am passing a judgment about her.
You are, in a sense, observing non-integrated behavior.
Is it a judgment or is it not a judgment?
Well, if you simply make note of it, this is integrated, this is not, I shall communicate my understandings of this lack of integration in a loving way, because that is the only way they will accept it anyway. That is discernment. That is establishing your preference. If you say, this is correct, this is not, therefore this absolutely stinks, and in that way communicate it from that perspective, that is judgment. So it is all in your presentation, all in how you choose to communicate what it is you wish to be of assistance with.
I suppose in my growing understanding of codependency, I feel that perhaps it is the impulse to communicate to this woman is coming from my own need.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you wish to continue to allow, in a sense, what you consider to be the abuse to continue?
No, I don't wish to see it continue.
All right. Understand that you believe this. Understand that you feel this way. And understand that when you, in that sense, do not make the communication, you are doing so believing that you should. We are simply pointing out the beliefs, not saying you should do this, should do that. There are no shoulds.
So perhaps what I'm feeling is genuine excitation to act, and I'm repressing it.
In a sense, yes. And that squelching can be frustrating. It can be you denying who you are, but it also affords you a whole other opportunity. Which is to begin to be able to make communications about who you are in a loving way. You can always present any point. You can always make any observation in a loving way. If you do, the other individual is now in the only conducive receptive state to accept it anyway. If you attack, they put up defense, and then, shall we say, it becomes almost impossible to make the point anyway. So the idea is this. You are who you are for a reason. You are where you are for a reason. You will always have the opportunity to express what you feel in a loving, positive way. When you do not do so, you will create friction within yourself. When you do so, the results most often or all the time will differ from what you expect, for you are coming from a loving, positive space. The difficulty is not in what is being said, it is what is not being said. You are not providing who you are in the situation. And by allowing it to continue in that sense, at least, you allow the mother to simply converse with herself. When you give another perspective to the mother, regardless of whether she should choose to take it or not, you at least provide the opportunity for that individual to grow, to have another perspective to bounce off of. But by, in a sense, agreeing with the idea, saying what you think an individual wishes to hear, you allow them to have a conversation with themselves, which does not afford them that growth. Does that make sense?
It does.
Does that help?
Yes, it does. I just realized that I was coming from a negative space about this woman, which really has something to do with me and my own experience, I guess.
Well, understand that not only is it true that anything that you create in your reality, anything, all your creation, can be used in a positive way to allow you to grow, it is also true as well with your willingness to communicate in a positive, loving way to others, affording them an opportunity to grow as well. And there can always, any communication can be made in a loving way if you look at where your buttons are when you are making the communication, perhaps in your imagination to yourself, and begin to ask yourself why you have those buttons. And begin to look at other ways that you can communicate, which actually are more representative of what you feel. For you feel this out of love.
I understand.
All right. Will that do for now?
That's fabulous. Thank you.
And we thank you. Female back there.
Elan,
Yes. Greetings.
I've never heard you channel before, and
I've never heard you either.
I've never been to a channel before. But
Oh, how exciting.
I have a question, and it has to do with creating your own negative reality. Are you saying things like catastrophic illnesses are things that you bring on yourself or that others bring on them?
Yes, but we are not saying this so that you can ascribe blame to yourself and demonstrate the ultimate symbol of lack of self-love, guilt. We are saying this so that you can realize that the non-preferential ones, such as dis-ease as an example, are usually the product of unconscious beliefs, and your willingness, even within the scenario of chronic dis-ease, as you say, can be, rather than continuing to ascribe a label, the flavor of which is what this illness does not allow me to do, is to allow you to see what the symbol allows you to do that you would not have done without it. How does it serve me? Exactly as it is. That allows you to take back your creatorhood in a positive way, and that is what then allows you to transform it. For all individuals who create the dis-ease also create the cure. And there is literally, truly no such thing except once an individual labels it as a terminal illness. That is a belief. And this is why there are many individuals who miraculously are cured of terminal illnesses, which are as severe as anybody else's terminal illnesses. They have transformed the symbol. You can now do so consciously. And again, one of the most obvious ways is to ask an individual, all right, it is quite obvious what this does not allow you to do, and focusing on what it has not allowed you to do has not transformed it. But what has it? That is an entirely different perspective than individuals will usually choose to use in those scenarios. Does that make sense?
Yes, the illness is not mine. It's actually my son's and my mother's, and I'm wondering what I can do to help the two of them.
Again, ask these questions. Allow them to begin to look at how it serves them as well as how it does not. And then when they find how it serves them, You can always, through your imagination, create other ways to serve the same purpose. And once they consciously begin to do those other things, creating the same effect, there will no longer be the need for that symbol. Does that not make sense?
It makes sense. It's really difficult for me to try to do that with
Well, if you
11-year-old
say
boy.
so, then that is so. But if you, again, in a loving way, begin to explore these ideas from the positive and begin to allow the other individuals to join you in this exploration, then what has formerly been labeled negative, the dis-ease, will automatically and immediately have the effect of beginning to allow the individuals to expand their consciousness and awareness of their reality by even being willing to look at the symbols in a positive way. So your hesitation, perhaps you can look at that, and when you have transformed that, assist them, facilitate them in a positive way to begin to look at the symbols rather than the actual effect.
I'm finding some difficulty in trying to process that.
All right. Is there some specific point that you are finding difficulty with?
I guess in having them look at what.
Well, have you ever asked this? Have you ever even approached it from that direction? Probably not.
No.
So therefore, the doors are not open for you to see the rationale behind what we are saying. The simple willingness to lovingly, not patronizingly, lovingly ask them to begin to look at what this has allowed them to do. It will simply be so obvious and the answers will simply begin to come that it will take on its own momentum and you will not need to assume the responsibility for continuing to do it. For individuals who then begin to look at the positive ideas are quite fascinated by it. But because you have not even approached it at all, you do not have the feedback to see that this is so and that the answers do come up. Individuals are usually so focused on what the limitation is that they have not even for a moment looked at what it has allowed them to do that they would not have done had they not had that symbol. Does it at least make sense so you have something to play with?
Yes, because that's really all both of them are doing are looking now at the limitations of what this has caused them.
So you will find as even one item comes up, you will see a transformation in the symptoms. And therefore, it will be easy in a sense to continue, for that is just a symbol as well. And even should they access your medical profession, and in that sense, allow themselves the creation of a symbol that cures them, it will still be them curing themselves using that symbol, so to speak, as an excuse. In the most literal sense of how you create your own reality. You create it all. The disease, the cure, all of it. Nobody ever cures you.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and approach it from that direction and see
All
how it goes.
No need to try. Simply do it. Have a good time. Play with it. You can, if you wish, have fun with it. You can make it into a game. It need not be so heavy. You can, in that sense, take the love you feel and the curiosity to explore ideas within consciousness and taking back their power in a positive way in a very light fashion. Joke around. Have some fun. It need not be so heavy. If, as this interaction unfolds, there are particular ideas that come up as seeming as an obstacle to allowing you to proceed in this way, please, in that sense, interact again. All right?
Okay, thank you very much.
And to you. Setting.
Elan,
Yes.
I've created a difficult situation, and I just want some help in understanding how it serves me and therefore how I can transform it.
All right. Do share and perhaps we can, in that sense, assist.
Okay. I created a situation where I own 2 homes, but I can afford but one. So how does this serve me?
Well, in a sense, you tell me.
No, I'll tell you. I can tell you that part.
All right. Thank you.
I perceive it as fearful and that it's a difficult situation. I don't know how that serves me, but
Well,
I
in a
guess.
sense, you have said what is negative about it.
Yes.
Now, how does it serve you?
How does it serve me?
Well, first of all, your reality is as you have shared. What do you wish the reality was?
I guess I wish until the situation can be resolved, I wish I could feel perfectly at ease with the situation and that everything will be taken care of.
Well, that is a given. But the idea is, do you wish to keep both houses?
No. I'm trying to sell one of them, but the market is not great for selling.
Oh, all right. In that sense, understand that that as well is an idea. So therefore, you can look at how you are choosing to go about that, how you are putting it out so that individuals know that the symbol, your house, is there. And perhaps if you again are utilizing the same symbol and getting the same unpreferred effect, you can begin to look at utilizing different symbols, even within your society, to assist in the advertisement that it is there. There is a person or persons who wish to live there. Now it is a matter of you putting it out so they can find you.
Okay.
Have you done that to the best of your ability, or is there more that you can do?
I don't know. I've given it to the best realtor that I know of. It's in New Jersey. I've given it out. I don't know what else I could do.
One moment. Is there somebody from your past, in a sense, who might desire living in that house?
Maybe Elizabeth, but not to my conscious knowledge.
All right. Our strongest sensing is that you can, in that sense, explore this idea. And perhaps the reason that it has not moved in that way is there is another, shall we say, purpose for it, and begin to explore other ways you can utilize the symbol. Does that make sense?
No. I mean, it might, but I'm too blocked to to understand. Just a second. Are you saying that somebody else wants to live there that I know?
It is our sensing that there may be somebody immediately familiar to you who can benefit by either buying it or, in that sense, occupying it while you, in that sense, sell it.
Okay. I don't know anybody in this area. I mean,
Well, the house is not in this area.
no, I don't know anybody in New Jersey that I know. I'm not aware that I know anyone in New Jersey who wants to live there that I'm aware of. Are you saying that I should talk to my friends, mention it to them?
Yes. Put it out, particularly to the individuals who do not know about it.
Okay.
That is our strongest suggestion for now. Utilizing what you have, but not in the same old way over and over. Begin to use, as we had discussed earlier, your imagination, for there may be other ways you can utilize the symbol of that house. And in the process of doing so, either you will find that or you will sell it. That is our strongest perception.
Okay.
Does that at least make sense so you have something to play with?
Yes, I'm just trying to understand it.
Well, when we say that, the individuals who it seems to you to be most obvious to contact start there.
Okay. So
That
you're
will
saying
then open up other roads.
So you're saying I should be more creative and more assertive, perhaps, in mentioning it and getting out in the universe more?
We are not saying you should, but you may. Yes.
I meant,
that will be assistive to you.
and
And that will open up, shall we say, doors that seem to not be there right now.
okay.
So utilize your creations, your, shall we say, acquaintances in a more full way.
Okay. And do I make the same, do I do the same thing in other areas of my life other than just in this one?
Well, again, if you do, then you will get the positive effects that we are discussing. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Use all your creations, hence the title of this interaction.
Okay.
No accident.
Thank you.
And to you. Over there.
Hello, Elan.
And to you.
Great to see you again.
Great to sense you as well.
Yeah. Andrew, the person that you channeled through, this evening said, well, I just spontaneously began to channel.
In a sense.
In a sense, I guess, to his consciousness.
Well, we were knocking, so to speak, on the door of his consciousness for quite a while before he just opened the door a crack and allowed us, in that sense, to say hello. But the idea is that this interaction and all interactions from our understanding of this nature are products of an agreement. In general, colloquially speaking, these agreements are made in what you would consider to be between lives. When it is time, in that sense, for an agreement to culminate, shall we say, there is not much that can at least stop it from getting at least to the beginning point. Therefore, it was an idea whose time had come, and simply it was an example that when this occurs, the path of least resistance then occurs. It simply will click into place. There is no stopping it. Now, part of the agreement was that the individual can choose not to do it. In this instance, he chose to do it. But prior to, shall we say, several months of the channeling, he was simply not even aware of the idea of channeling. But this served his purposes in keeping him focused in other ways that allowed him, unbeknownst, in a sense, to his conscious awareness, to acquire knowledge and tools that would actually allow us to have enough material to work with in that sense. So it is perfect timing, even down to that degree.
Well, okay. On a conscious level, I am really choosing to in my way that I make money, which is, well, in this portion of my income is through therapeutic massage. I'm really consciously attempting to attune to my clients' vibrations, and I guess what I'm yearning to do is to have some, psychic knowledge of my clients' needs.
All right, may we make a suggestion?
Sure.
Again, not to sound too simple, but the first step will always be to relax. You cannot force yourself to tune in. Tuning in is a matter of allowance. Second of all, understand that all interactions occur within a medium, a thick, shall we say, thickened atmosphere of what you might call unconditional love. For the idea is that what you sometimes call telepathic connections, we call empathic connections, and will have to do with an individual's willingness to identify as another individual, to see in a sense through their eyes, to walk in that sense in their boots. This allows you to create a similar vibration, match a similar vibration within yourself. And then you because you are now representative of the vibration closer to their vibration, will begin to create thoughts. And when you create thoughts, while mimicking their vibration, their thoughts that you create will be very similar to theirs. Hence, it will seem that you are reading their mind. More accurately is the idea that you are creating the same thoughts at the same time from the same vibratory, shall we say, awareness. So relax. Allow yourself to feel the unconditional love of creation, and allow yourself to tune into them very loosely, again, from the perspective of seeing as them. Then, and here comes the part where most individuals hang themselves up, trust what you get.
Okay.
Aha.
Yes. Well, that's okay. The thing is, maybe I'm being a little too hard on myself because, for example, today a client, I was tuning in, and the word, I always seem to get just one word or one phrase, and to me it seems like it's something that I already know or that they already know, and
Yes, but it's not necessarily that you will be illuminating new knowledge as pushing the right button, as saying the thing that they already know that will be most significant in that moment. It is no accident that you are getting those impressions. Your willingness to convey them, act upon them, and allow them to tell you how it's significant to them begins an exchange. And empathy is an exchange, not a one-way line. So your willingness to validate on any level what you get, act upon it, share it, will then make it more obvious and then allow you to see that you are in fact tuning in.
That's great, because even if it is one word, I understand now that it could really be the word that
Exactly.
the important one.
And that is economy of verbiage.
And this may sound strange, but I never really thought about sharing the message that I got with my clients.
Well, thank you for beginning to discover this idea.
Thank you very much.
Well, again, we only share with you what you already know. You only can even understand or perceive an idea if you first contain it. Therefore, thank you for containing it.
Yeah. I just have a statement that I've been pondering and sort of
All right. Thank you. Do
I
share.
think it's just I'm not sure exactly the best way to say this, but
Oh, it'll come out just perfect.
okay, myself and the other people in this room we are all above the survival level in our lives, in this life. You know, we all have clothes and we all have a home and food and everything. And I guess the statement is that I guess I'm acknowledging that the people in the world, in the ghettos, who are on a survival level, I'm not sure what I'm saying. I guess I actually have a question. Let's say someone who's on a survival level or in the what we call a third world, are they like the woman earlier was asking, are they less dense?
They are exactly in that sense equal. They are simply exploring aspects of third. They are exploring abundance, but through a negative interpretation, and then usually continuing to perpetuate it because of beliefs in notions. But the opportunity, the idea is that each individual actually has enough power to transform it, but again, not by assigning it the same label, doing the same things, and getting the same effect. What we have spoken of in this interaction applies to them no less. And therefore, perhaps your interest in even the subject will allow you, wherever your interactions happen, to take you in that sense, to interact with individuals such as that and allow them to begin to even think about these ideas. For they have just as much capability to transform them. There is no difference in the density of their consciousness. They are simply exploring, in that sense, an aspect of abundance, perhaps a lack of abundance, which is an aspect of abundance as well. But this does not mean they are locked into it. It is only the beliefs and the ideas and buying into everybody knows societal notions that allows them to continue to perpetuate it. But they, if they were willing to utilize all their creations in a positive way, would very rapidly transform and accelerate their reality as well. So therefore, in whatever way you find it excites you to be of assistance to any individuals you attract, go right ahead. And then you will simply see what we are talking about. They will prove it to themselves.
That sounds fun.
Oh, we think so.
Thank you.
And to you. At this timing, allow us to pause for a short break of 10 to 15 minutes of your counting and resume contact at that timing. All right, I'll say before we continue, allow me to discuss one thing. It had been shared at the last half of the interaction. The idea of abundance and the idea of individuals living above subsistence level. Allow us to explain that as you begin to transform into your new ideas from your old, more limiting beliefs, very often one of the results of your willingness to move in such a way will be a little bit of a shaking up of your old reality. Now, very often, this in it of itself stems from a belief that in order to build up a new reality, you need to tear down the old. This is not necessarily what need occur. It is one perspective, one way. So individuals may find themselves, as they begin to take back their power from time to time, exploring many issues regarding and surrounding the idea of abundance. From our perspective, as a definition, abundance is simply your ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Money is one form, but there are many different ways through which you can express who it is you are. Because again, many individuals will choose to shake themselves up a bit and do it in an exciting way, though they do not always interpret it as exciting when this is the issue. You can understand that should you find yourself in such a situation where you feel that you are perhaps above subsistence just barely, that you can still proceed in a positive way. You can still use all your creations, even that. We find that there is a tendency with individuals who are experiencing, shall we say, self-created difficulties surrounding abundance, for them to continually focus in and hone in on what that lack of what they perceive their abundance to be does not allow them to do. And so therefore, when the issue comes up of looking at the ideas and beliefs surrounding abundance, very often it is accompanied by a negative interpretation. And remember, as we had opened the interaction by saying, all ideas are neutral. Your willingness to label them as negative will give you a negative effect. Now, how you can apply this in a positive way with the subject you label abundance, sometimes taking the form of money, is first of all to broaden your definition to understand that abundance is the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And perhaps the path of least resistance will not be money. If it is, it will be there. If it is not, that tells you that there is something right in front of you that you can act on that does not require that money, but will still get you where you want to be. Again, as a reminder, you are choosing at this point in your existence to explore physical reality as physical beings. And the ultimate manifestation of your intention, your beliefs, are your actions. So therefore, where you apply that actions and the beliefs that are behind your application of the actions will determine your effect. If you are acting from the perspective of, I can't do this, I can't do that, you hold yourself back and in general do nothing. Therefore, perhaps as an assistive tool, you can utilize the phrase, what can I do right now? And if you will utilize that to ground yourself in any given moment, factoring out by convention what it is you cannot do at that moment, you will begin to act from what is available, and you will then show yourself how you have the ability, which you already have. It is automatic. It is inherent to do what you need to do when you need to do it. So when you find yourself saying, I don't have the money, I can't do this, I can't do that, all right, that is all well and good. Now, at least give yourself the opportunity to explore the other side of the same coin. And now that you have made a nice little itemized list of what it is you cannot do, begin to look at what can I do. That will always bring you back to center. That will enable you to begin to reestablish the flow that you stop, so to speak, when you are contemplating and constantly submerging your consciousness in what I can't do. It is all a matter of perspective. When you begin to show, again, the ultimate manifestation of your intention by action, that you simply know you always have the ability, you will begin to show yourself how you have that ability. And it can be most obvious. For again, if you cannot act upon it, that is not the thing. If you cannot do it, that is not the idea. What can you do? What can you act upon it? So therefore, again, what can I do will always center you back to looking at what is right in any given here and now moment. And your willingness to then move in positive action, allow yourself to see what you can do. And here's again the idea. Choosing from those choices, utilizing the one that excites you the most from what is available. This will begin your ecstatic explosion of coincidence and synchronicity. Therefore, we thank you. Shedding. At this timing, allow us to express to each and every one of you our unconditional love and appreciation for your willingness to begin to use all your creations. You created them, you might as well. Therefore, have a good time with the things that we have discussed. Nothing that we share need be taken with a heavy attitude. You can play, you can have a good time. You can use your imagination to allow yourself in the lightest possible way to begin to affect the changes in your life. But this does not mean you cannot have fun doing so. Therefore, we thank you and we bid you a most fond and unconditionally loving pleasant dream.